All right, welcome to All Point Sports. You're now live. All Point Sports, a weekly broadcast. All Point Sports with our special guest tonight, all the way from Denver, Colorado, U.S. veteran JG the Kid. How are you, John?
Pretty good. How y'all doing tonight?
Not
We're
too
gonna,
bad, John. Not too bad.
I
Little
got
cold,
Bobby
little cold
Blackjack.
here. Little cold here.
Okay.
Not liking
And
this cold
Bobby,
weather.
Bobby, where are you at? New Jersey?
I'm in New Jersey. Yeah, I'm in Bergen County. I'm right by Paramus, the mall capital of the world. About 10, 15 minutes from the GW Bridge. About 20 minutes from the Lincoln Tunnel. Of course, depending on traffic, as they say.
And I'm right here in Callicoon, New York. You right down the street from the original Woodstock at Villa Roma Resort. So we're here to talk sports tonight. Major League Baseball, of course, starting tomorrow. Some great opening games we have tomorrow, and I just have some stats. I was just looking over, and some opening games with the Giants and the Yankees. We'll talk Giants and Yankees. The Yankees favored, slight favorites tomorrow at home. Giants Yankees. The over under 7.5. Bobby, you're a big Yankee fan. What do you think of the Yankees this year?
We lost John for a second. I don't know. I mean, the Yankees. I was reading a few predictions. I'll read some more tomorrow. I mean, I usually formulate my own opinion, but what I've been reading thus far is that Yankees are pretty beat up at the moment. You know, 3 starting pitchers on the um, injured list, as they call it now, and of course Harrison Bader's out. So what they're projecting, and I kind of agree with them, is that Yankees might come off to a slow start, right? But as any good team will persevere and get hot, probably when the weather gets hot, and then we'll be okay.
And, and they may do well in the beginning of the year. What do you think? And John went offline. We're waiting for John. He's an expert on the Braves, and we'll talk some Braves baseball tonight as well as the New York Mets. But Bobby, tell us about some of the young Yankees uh, that are coming up this year.
I think well you're gonna have, as far as the young Yankees are concerned. Well, obviously Anthony Volpe, right? Came out of because he came out of nowhere. He's a #1 draft pick and has been the heir to Derek Jeter in the minds of Yankee fans and management for quite a while. So I think he surprised everybody by
He's on fire this spring. He's
making the
simply
spring
on
team.
fire.
Yeah, he actually made the team, and I don't know if you saw this today, Doc, but he actually called up one of my favorite guys, Brett Gardner, and asked Brett Gardner, "Hey, do you mind if I could use number 11?" Which is a tremendous amount of respect. To me, Brett Gardner should have been a captain, but he never was. But he was like the de facto captain for years. And he's one guy. He won a championship with us. He made an all-star team, and he'll be considered a very good Yankee down the road, kind of like a Mickey Rivers, right? I mean, the kind of guy you'll always, he'll be our generation. Well, he'll be the young generation's Mickey Rivers, right? Mickey Rivers won a couple chips back in the '70s, and you just know the name. And I think
He walked slow, but
Brett
he
Gardner.
hustled down the line.
Oh, Brett Gardner was fast. Even when we got older, he always maintained that speed.
No, I'm saying Mickey Rivers.
Oh yeah, Mickey Rivers. Yeah.
Slow in the box and quick down the line.
Mick the Quick. Yep. I was getting everything set up here on Villaroma TV as well.
With Villa Roma TV, channel 114, Blackjack TV, channel 114.
I can do my production stuff first. So we'll have Stephen J joining us in a few moments. That's always fun. There we go. We're now live on Villaroma TV. Waiting for John to come on. So, what are your thoughts about the Yankees so far? And we'll go through some of the other teams as well.
Yeah, so let's go RBI leader. So the favorite right now would be Pete Alonso, along with Aaron Judge. What do you think, Bobby?
Wow, it's you know what, we are in for a treat here in the New York area. If you're obviously a New York Mets or Yankees fan, because it really looks like either team or both teams are going to really fight and claw to potentially have another Subway Series. So yeah, Pete Alonso in the middle of that lineup again. I I don't know if the Mets added enough offense. Right, that was their heel Achilles heel last year, right, with the Mets their offense. I mean, yeah, they added a great pitcher, but I'm trying to think. Did they add any offense to that team? Otherwise,
I
Pete
don't think
Alonso.
too much with all that money out there. But look at that pitching. I don't think they're going to need any hitting.
That is true. That is true.
And as far as the World Series, yeah, the favorites through the Caesars app, of course, the Astros at plus 400, Yanks at 750, followed by the Mets at 800. So your talk of a possible Subway Series comes into play big time there with the Yankees running 2 and 3. Dodgers also at 800, Braves 850, Padres 1,000. So those are the top six. American League outright, the Astros 250, Yankees 350, Blue Jays 650, Mariners 800, Rays 1,200. So you're talking a very tough division, but with the new rule in baseball that everybody plays each other, that makes it kind of even, more even instead of stacking up against one team. What do you
Yes,
think, Bobby?
it's kind of weird. Yeah, it's kind of weird how we're playing. If I'm not mistaken, right? We're playing the Giants and Phillies the first two series. What is that?
And Phillies are projected to NL outright. They're projected fourth, right in front of the Cards and behind the Padres. Of course, the Mets and Dodgers both at plus 400. So they expect big things out of and the Braves, of course, big time. Look, no
Look at
better time. What a
that. Another time.
segue into the most knowledgeable person of the Atlanta Braves, all the Atlanta teams that I know, JG the Kid, coming back online. Tell us about the Braves this year, John. Oh, we lost them again. You there, Bobby? I think we lost. I think we lost everyone. Bobby. I'm the only one online. I wonder if we're still alive here. They predict on the Caesars app, number one in home runs, of course, Aaron Judge. Aaron Judge will be facing some very tough pitching this year. You know he's going to walk a whole bunch. So Aaron Judge, I don't know if Aaron Judge. There goes Bobby.
Yeah, weird internet thing. Even John in Denver's having little problems. But we'll have Steve and Jay soon. Hey, Doc, keep going. Give me 1 second. I'm gonna check something out.
Sure. So Aaron Judge, they predict him to come back and be the RBI leader as well as the home run leader, and not even close to him would be Schwarber and Guerrero Jr. So just at a plus 600 with plus 1,000s behind them. So they do predict Judge with a big year, but I see many walks in the picture. Remember when he was going for the record last year, and even though he got it, he did have a long period of walks and just swinging wildly. I don't see it this year. Let's hope he comes back big time. I know we're offline again. To I'm online. I could see myself right online right here. And Bobby said, keep going. So we're going to keep going right now. the American League outright, they are picking the Astros, and the Houston Astros, very, very tough each and every year. They did lose some pitching. They picked up some young arms, and the Astros will always be in the thick of things. You can expect the Astros there this year as well. We're expecting John back online here and Stephen J here tonight on All Point Sports. We'll also have this coming up very, very soon in the next few shows, concession report. All the concessions, Major League Baseball, not so much the concessions indoors, but the tailgating that goes on out in the parking lots before the games, and the best tailgate foods will be featured by our own Tommy Lexus. Tommy Lexus will be joining us. We'll try to get him next week for a tailgate report with Tommy Lexus, brought to you by Lexus of Manhattan, Lexus of Queens, Lexus of Brooklyn, and the new Cadillac of Manhattan. Experience amazing. Lexus. Also brought to you by Peter's Meat Market. Peter's Meat Market, Arthur Avenue's favorite meeting place. 718-367-3136. Peter's Meat Market. Inside the North Bronx Market, right next to Mike's Deli. Stop by Arthur Avenue for all your favorites. Italian tradition. Bronx, Little Italy. When on Metropolitan Avenue in Queens, visit Eddie's Sweet Shop. Eddie's Sweet Shop in Queens, a great place to go before any ball game or after any ball game. Eddie's Sweet Shop in Queens. You been there, Bobby?
Hold on 1 second. Eddie's Sweet Shop? No.
No, it's an old-fashioned ice cream parlor. It's been in a few movies. There goes John. John, let's get that Atlanta report in from Denver.
All right. Well, we open the season on the road versus Washington Nationals. We're coming off a really good spring training. Ronald Acuna is back, fully healthy. Should lead the way towards the MVP season, hopefully. Made a huge trade for Sean Murphy from the Oakland A's, and he's one of the top defensive catchers in baseball. So that should help us tremendously.
Very nice. So where do they open up?
We're playing on the road versus the Washington Nationals tomorrow. So it'll be Max Fried going against Patrick Corbin, two left-hand pitchers, and hopefully we'll get the win.
So let's just go Nationals real quick. If you go World Series on the Caesars app, the best being the Astros at plus 400, the worst being the Nationals at 30,000 to 1, along with the Oakland A's. That's worth $5, isn't it? Stephen J. joining us from where?
From Oswego.
Oswego. A beautiful spring day in Oswego.
As it snows sideways here in Oswego. And I think the snow is getting the best of me versus my voice, but we keep on chugging here. How's everyone doing tonight?
Pretty good, pretty good.
Yeah,
Not too bad there, Steven. So, Steven, real quick, I mentioned to Doc earlier, being we're waiting for our friend Chris Monty to come on, make his debut on All Points Sports. This may just be the Yankees in Atlanta show today, as far as predictions, because we don't have any Met fans on. We're the Met, if you're a Met fan and you're listening to this,
it won't be pretty, but I'll give it to you anyway. I'll give a very colorful Met rundown if I have to.
Oh boy, he's been building up for this one.
Yeah, I've been waiting for it. So you say the word, you give me the green light, and I'll get the flamethrower ready.
Well, let's get John going with his Atlanta stuff. And Doc, Doc, by the way, where are my Florida Marlins on that list?
The Marlins
we're building it. We're not there.
They're somewhere in the mid. In the mid.
All right, that's an improvement for us. I'll take it.
There's someone who could be on the rise. I mean, they did trade Lopez. They got the AL batting champ on their team, but the odds aren't that pretty to win the division. I think it was like plus 4,000. But hey, Bobby, It'll be a very more encouraging year than last year. They could be like on a team that's ready to knock on the doorstep, but not ready to take the next step.
Real quick, Steve, guys, I think it'll be a fantastic trade. You mentioned Pablo Lopez being traded, right? That last trade deadline, that could have been Gleyber Torres in that situation. And hey, he's a kid, 26 years old. I think he still has 2 more years before he reaches arbitration eligibility. So that's a kind of kid that with some, it's young and with power that would fit nice into Miami's lineup. So we'll see what happens.
Yeah, it seemed like they kind of got hosed there. I feel like a deal like that could have, helped the Yankees down the stretch, considering Gleyber didn't do much, and they certainly could have used another arm. But even so, I mean, the bats didn't even wake up in the final, so it would have been 0-0 at least, and the Yankees wouldn't have scored a run. But I mean, hey, the Marlins, like I said, they're a team that's building there. Luis Suarez, they got a nice little mix of veterans and young players. Just it's going to be Jazz Chisholm season. And
yeah, they love this kid, right? Every time I see, is he on the MLB one of the games cover this year?
I believe so, yeah, he's on the MLB video game. He's the cover
Right.
boy.
So this guy's been talked about for a few years now. Now it's time for these young kids to step up and match up to what the pitchers do. Because we all know the Marlins have a fantastic pitching staff.
Mm-hmm.
That's why they traded Lopez. They had excess. They have excess. And Yankees can't get 5 guys together.
Jazz signed with Jordan Apparel as well, making the 5th major league player to do that. So,
good. You know what, John, you made my night. So I'm a Jordan guy. I'm a Marlins fan. Now I can buy some apparel with the Jumpman on it. I love it. Yeah.
A Jordan guy. He says wearing the Adidas shirt, but anyway.
Yeah. And the Steelers hat.
And the Steelers hat, probably made by Fangraphs. So yeah, I mean, there's nothing that baseball loves than a marketable player, because really they're few and far between a lot of these guys. Mike Trout isn't very marketable in terms of him being open to the public, right? He's Mike Trout, but you don't really see his face anywhere. So young guy like Jazz Chisholm, I mean, you can never ask for enough, exciting young players like that to kind of thrust themselves into the forefront and kind of make a name for themselves and make a little extra money, like these college guys with the NIL.
What do you think about the NIL?
Guys, real quick, before we go any further, Steve, take it over. You're in college, so what's your perspective?
We're going to NIL? Well,
real quick, yeah, he asked about NIL.
Yeah. Oh, I didn't hear that. Yeah, I mean, over here, what is Mr. Jim Boeheim, God rest his coaching soul. He finally bit the big one here as Syracuse finally, I mean, whether you want to say he retired or he was let go, I think that's kind of more the school's decision, but he was kind of at the forefront of really criticizing the NIL, and he was big on it. One of the teams that he mentioned was Miami, and look where they are now in the top 4, in the Final Four, and NIL. As a college kid, it makes me wish that I took sports a little bit more seriously, because maybe I could have, had a couple sponsors on my jersey. But it's just a whole different landscape in sports. And whether it's the Miami Hurricanes and men's, even the Miami Hurricanes for the women's team too, they got some players that transferred over just because of NIL. So it's changed the game. It's not all about just coaches. It's who's got the biggest donors behind. I'm forgetting the name of the Miami guy, but he's a billionaire donor who's back in the Miami program, and they're getting all these exciting players in there. So really, it's kind of like baseball, where the more the deeper pockets you have, the more likely you are to succeed now.
And I also
real quick, guys. This is for Doc and John. You guys weren't on the show last week. What were your thoughts about the World Baseball Classic and that showdown between Trout and Ohtani, since we mentioned Mike Trout previously?
Watching it live, it was just amazing. Them going versus each other, and then going fastball, and then to take 20 miles per hour off of it, and then throwing the slider to strike them out. It was just crazy.
Doc, what are your thoughts?
I think if you look at the lineups of the teams, especially the Italian team, there's we talked about it, Bobby. Not everybody's Italian. I work at an Italian resort. There's a difference between a Murphy and even an Alonzo. It ends in a vowel, but it's a tough thing because you want to play, but then some people end up playing like what ties does Matt Harvey have to Italy? I don't know. So I
I
don't know
bet.
if that's a true representation of what it represents. The FIBS, the Italian League, which I played many years ago, even though it be the B division, we always scrimmage against the A division teams. And you're allowed at that time to have 2 Americans on a team. It's a tough call. It's not a true, I don't think it's a true, I don't see it as, and we lose to Japan, an American sport. It's a tough loss. It was a tough loss.
Look,
There
Doc,
is-
I have a pretty good suspicion that all the guys we mentioned on that lineup from Italy who didn't have Italian last names, I bet you their moms were Italian.
There we go. I
Yeah,
could buy that.
They're
I
off
could
the
buy
boat,
that.
their parents. They're off the boat, as they say.
Yeah. No, but even on some of the national teams, uh, you could check the lineups. I think they're allowed to have from other countries. I support that. That's how Italy got good. They hired the American college kids, the ones that maybe weren't the top of the line, but they came over and they coached the young, even the little league. They played with their A-ball clubs, and they taught them a whole lot. In fact, how to hit a curveball. They couldn't hit a curveball in '81, and they could smack the heck out of a curveball in '82. And I could attest to that because they smacked one to the fence off of me. My guy caught it. A July 4th game against Reggio Puglia. And I opened up with a curveball, and this guy smacked it to the fence on a baseball field. Luckily, it was a baseball field and not a softball field. It would have been far gone. He hit it about 400 feet.
So for the sake of our Villaroma guests who will be watching this or the replay, how far would that be in our softball field? Would that be over the hill, down the mountain?
That would be 2 of the softball fields. Yeah. 2. Well, Yankee Stadium, when the Monument, before they put the Monument Park in, that was around, I believe, 441,
Oof.
if I'm not mistaken, or 437. That was a deep part of the park, and to hit it out of there would be tremendous.
Yes, 2 Villaroma softball fields, or just 1.5. 2 Villaroma softball fields equal the Yankees' right field short porch, I believe, is what it is. I think those are the measurements. Could be shorter for the Yankees. Who knows? But yeah, it was an interesting WBC. I mean, Bobby and I said that last week. People watched no matter what the controversy was. So you could say it was a dud. You could say that they won. In the end, people watched. It had 5 million people, 5 million viewers. So in the end, they won. People are already waiting until 3 or 4 years from now. They're
Sure.
you got stars like Trout recruiting. People like Judge already being asked if they want to be there the next go around for it. So I think they finally made a name for themselves where people didn't really know that it was on. Where now people know it's on, but now they either support it or they don't support it. So people have an opinion on it. That's good for the WBC.
I think it goes back to the NIL, really, and that's Jim Thorpe. And you know the story. He was his medals were taken away from him because he played with a baseball team called the I know the name. It's the jail. They were at the jail at Jim Thorpe, but ironically he played for a baseball team under that name, and he played. He got about $4 a week, and they said, oh, he was paid, and then they stripped him of his medals. But then you had a guy in the same Olympics, a Kobe Bryant and all the NBA stars that they were paid all those millions of dollars and they competed in the Olympics. So, boy, times have changed. And after he passed away, yes, they reinstated his medals, but that was long overdue. So I don't know about pay for play. Uh, it, it's a tough thing to discuss. It's a tough thing to look at because look at those guys that were uh, denied to play because they took money for, or they didn't take a job at a college. Someone was doing their homework, or they took money for a car, or they were given an apartment. There's just so much of that going on over the years. Some people get in trouble for it, and many don't.
Well, we mentioned last week, Doc, about talking about some of the college basketball new hires like Rick Pitino going to St. John's. Hey, now what he's been doing for 20 years is now legal, and now he's within the rules to do so. So we'll see how he makes out in Queens.
Some of the things are legal. Some of the things, as far as maybe the solicitation and things, who knows? I don't think that's still legal at Pitino, but most of it is. All jokes aside.
All right, let's get back to our MLB talk, fellas. So, John, yeah, you're the Atlanta fan, and I'm sure you keep an eye on the AL East.
Yes.
Do you think the odds are the Mets are gonna run away with the National League because of their $375 million payroll this year?
Well,
and they lost Correa. That would have been over $400 million right there if we.
Right. And every year they're picked to win the division. We always, even after we won the World Series, they picked the Mets to win the division last year. We started off slow. We finally got to 500 around 31-31, and then just took off, caught the Mets, won the division, and just fell short in the playoffs. But here we go again. They're picking the Mets to win the division. We're fully loaded. We have young pitching, veteran pitching. Michael Harris coming off Rookie of the Year. He'll have a full season. He came out of nowhere last year and won Rookie of the Year. So we're definitely excited for the season and can't wait for tomorrow.
What do you guys open up with?
We're on the road versus Washington Nationals. And with no shift now, Matt Olson.
You know what? I am right. Real quick. Go on.
Oh, Matt Olson's going to have a lot of base hits now with that no shift rule.
By the way,
in the spring, he wasn't even hitting it on the field. He was hitting it over past the stadium. He was clobbering the ball. So, even if he doesn't even hit it in the stadium at this point, he had a hell of a spring.
Yeah.
But, everyone likes to pick the Mets because I feel like, unfortunately for Braves fans, cover your ears that the Braves might be a little bit of a boring choice because that may be the easy choice. So, people picking the Mets, they might think, oh, this is the year. And let's face it, for about 8% of the year last year, it was. And then the Mets, whether it was maybe a couple of injuries that slowed them down, just kind of the bats went silent, but it was really just the Braves. They just hit the ground running. Once, September, late August came around, they just did not stop. So really with the Braves, or the Mets rather, it's not like they did much wrong last year. Just the Braves played; they just wouldn't lose a game. So I'm all in for. I'm sure Doc Holliday has the numbers here for the Braves winning the division. I think before the Rhys Hoskins injury, I think that maybe even the Phillies winning the division would have been a good bet too. The Mets, they got a lot of veterans, but having two near 40-year-olds at the top pitching, and they're going to need 30-plus starts out of both of them if they want to win the NL East. So those are my reservations on the Mets, and I don't know if Doc has the numbers for the NL East as far as who wins it.
Well, NL outright would be the Mets with the Braves right behind, but the most team wins, this is interesting, is Dodgers at plus 400, Astros, and this is for both leagues, Astros plus 450, Yankees plus 550, Braves plus 650, Mets 675, Padres 800. So most team wins. If Braves are favored, that right there over the Mets. let's see what comes down to head. We know it should be close, and that's what they have it. They have it very close between the Braves and the Mets, and it all comes down to every year. And even John pointed on it, the injuries. Uh, you could have the best roster, but if those guys go down, I mean, look at the Yankees opening day with 3 starters down. That's a tough task to fill. Maybe not the opening game, but then you're looking at game 2 or 3 where you want to get out of town or at home. You want to at least win 2 out of 3. But they open up with Giants and Phillies, both rated very high this year. I even have the Giants to go all the way on a $5.
What?
$5, right? Just you could either,
Go Giants.
No, Doc, real quick. I'm not known to be not a sports bettor, right? So you mentioned those numbers before. So what would a $5 bet do for some of those bets you mentioned earlier? Like, what would you get back if it actually hit?
I figure at a plus 1,000, $10 would be 100.
Okay,
So
so
100.
So you have the
So
zeros
10
at the end.
10 times. So yeah. So plus 400. That's still good because just give you an example, the opening day, Giants Yankees. If you bet the Yankees, you're betting a minus 190. Okay, so that's not too much on a $5 bet. That may be $7, but I'm not a big bettor. Giants, if you take the Giants opening day, you get a plus 158. So
That's what 0.5 times your bet.
yeah, so that for $10 it'd be 15, almost $16.
All right, now I'm trying to figure. All right, I always wondered about that myself, actually.
And then opening day also, the Giants are getting a run and a half. So if you took the Giants getting a run and a half, you could win. You bet 5, you get 5 back, or 10 back. Then you're getting a run and a half. So if the game ends 4-3, Yankees, you still win. But if it ends 4-2, you just add the runs. And the Yankees are minus 1.5. So if you're going to do one of those, if I suggested one of those, I would suggest a parlay where you take the Yankees minus 1.5 and the Braves minus 1.5 and the Mets minus 1.5 and hope that they win everybody wins 2-0.
Okay.
So
that's a good way of putting it. And then the over-under varies with the teams. A team like Braves Nationals, the over-under is 8. And they'll take a look at the pitchers and the pitchers' stats. And that's where that comes from because they know the offensive stats already for both teams. And if you took a team and the Marlins to win the World Series, not the Marlins, the Nationals, as I mentioned, 30,000 to 1. That's unbelievable.
Wow.
So a $10 bet would get you back, but they'd have to have a stellar season, an unbelievable.
That's like putting money on FAU to win the national championship.
Yes. We have to go back to the show that we were all on. Tell us the name, John. And I did predict on that show. John knows what I'm talking about. He showed me film of this young lady that shoots the lights out of the ball. So I went on to ESPN picking the Final Four, and I picked Iowa to make the Final Four. And that's the first time in their career ever in the history of Iowa that making the Final Four. What's her name, John?
Caitlin Clark.
Caitlin Clark, what a shooter. And what stats she has going into the Final Four. Unbelievable. What a shot. They won at the buzzer, right, John? A buzzer beater. A buzzer beater 3. Wow.
And then in the Elite 8, she had the first 40-point triple-double in March Madness history, guys or girls. She's just the way she could create her shot off the dribble. It just reminds me of Steph Curry. The way he could create his shot just to get open and is automatic from three. It's unbelievable to watch.
What's her percentage from three, John? It's big.
I'm not sure, but it's got to be up there. And I know they have to play South Carolina. South Carolina's undefeated. They haven't lost all year, so I imagine they're gonna try to trap her, get the ball out of her hands, and make somebody else beat her. So or beat Iowa. So
You think that could happen?
I'll be pulling for Iowa, but South Carolina. So.
Yeah, they're good. They're a good team. By the way, ironically, the men's and women's Final Four this weekend are both in the state of Texas. Dallas has the women, Houston has the men. I don't know if that was planned that way or coincidence, but I think it's kind of ironic myself.
And what I noticed with the women's, the part I didn't like is the first and second round, the higher seed of that area gets the home game, so it's not fair to those lower seeds to go in on a home game. For the higher seed, it's more of an advantage with their home crowd and everything. It doesn't go neutral site to the Sweet 16.
Wow.
So
Well, I asked John when Arkansas was going to play Connecticut. I asked John's opinion, and he told me they just got to contain that big man. That big man can score some points, and
it was a rough night.
I didn't watch the beginning of the game, and when I turned it on, I knew exactly. I said, "Well, they didn't contain the big man." So that's going to be Miami's problem as well. But you know what? Miami surprised a ton of people the other day by coming back in that game. One of the greatest comebacks. I think Miami could be right there with those three guard, that 3 guard offense that just they find a way to do it. What do you think, Bobby?
The problem with UConn, you mentioned the big guy, but they have two big guys.
They do.
They got Sanogo, who is the guy we wanted at Seton Hall, and trust me, I watched the guy up front. He's great. And, whatever surprised me if he's in the NBA next year. But they have the other guy, Clegan or something, Clegan or something. He's like 7'2". So, and if I'm not mistaken, they don't play too much together, but they sub one in for the other. So there's always a big man in the post somewhere in the presence, whether it be offense or defense. Which Dan Hurley is a polarizing figure here in New Jersey. Seton Hall grad, but went to UConn. His dad is the legendary Bob Hurley from St. Anthony fame here in Jersey City. But it'll be a tough one. But yeah, those two big men from UConn are tough to get around. That's why a UConn FAU final would be pretty fascinating, because if you notice FAU, my guy Nick Boyd from St. Mary Rutherford, I'll be there in their gym watching the game Saturday night with the rest of the St. Mary faithful. But they have a guy, Vlad Golden, on FAU, 7'2", who really played a big game last game. So can you imagine his 7'2" going against the other two big guys from UConn? I'll make for a fascinating matchup if both teams should make it to the finals.
Well, that's a tough opponent for Florida Atlantic. They just find a way to. Those guys are the defenses. I've never seen defense like that in college basketball. They're on you. If you create the turnovers, it's going to be fun to watch. And they just.
Yeah, it really is. And I don't know about you up there, John, but down here it's gonna be a cold ass rainy weekend. So perfect weekend to stay home and watch sports. And by the way, not be in Yankee Stadium, because I'll be very happy 10 feet away here watching it on my recliner on my big screen that game tomorrow. Opening day or not, it's gonna be freezing.
Yes. And we could go back to the Elite Eight matchup with Kansas State and FAU as the battle of the New York point guards in there, and
Yep.
Marquise Noel, and just the run
Oh,
he had in 5'8", and he was putting up it's hard enough to get 10 assists in a game, and he's getting 18, 19 assists. Was just unbelievable.
Yeah, he was.
well,
I was reading up about him before the game. He kind of idolized and wanted to play for our guy here at Seton Hall, but small guard, tough, and he made a name for himself among the new guard of New York City point guards coming out of the five boroughs.
Right, and I'm a huge Arkansas fan, and he started at Arkansas Little Rock. How the heck did we let him get out of Arkansas to go to Kansas State?
Well,
So,
that's the bane of existence right now in college basketball forums. Is there's like 1,000 players now in the transfer portal.
mhm.
I mean, yeah, there's 300 something. I'm not sure the exact number, but it's over 300 D1 programs. So that
Right.
doesn't include D2, which I believe give partial scholarships,
Hmm.
and the D3s of the world. But yeah, 1,000 players in the portal right now. Crazy.
And I saw where Bronny James is rumored to get 7.3
Oh,
million NIL deal with wherever he chooses next year to go.
all right, guys, I haven't watched Bronny James play, and I have a pretty serious hatred and bias against his dad, who stole a video from me off YouTube on a documentary. And any entertainment attorneys out there, please give Doc or myself a call, please. I do need one, and it is a blatant thing he did. I could easily win some money on this.
He went out looking to rip off Bobby Blackjack. He knew it.
Well, long story short, if you watch the Victor Cruz documentary, I Am Giant, that debuted on Showtime 5-6 years ago, I believe. I'm not sure how long it was. I didn't have Showtime at that time, and when that documentary debuted, people who were watching it, I'm getting phone calls and texts. Bobby, you're on TV. I go, what? Yeah, I was in the kitchen and I heard your voice, and I looked over and it was you on TV. So long story short, I called my cousin, who was my partner at the time. I go, and he looked into it, and lo and behold, in this documentary, I did do the first. Me and him, my cousin Anthony, Big T, we did the first ever interview with Victor Cruz when he was just walk on from UMass before he made it big. Later that year in the fall in the preseason against the Jets. So I had this tape on this video. I recorded of him doing this interview. He was from Patterson, like us, and so after that big game he had against the Jets in the preseason, I think he scored like 3 touchdowns. So he became real famous at that point. And then he made the Giants, of course, and the Salsa Dance and the whatnot. LeBron James production company makes this documentary of him, and they literally stole my video off YouTube, put it into this documentary, and never asked me for permission to use it. So,
Good
any
thing they had a guy who
entertainment
knows
lawyers,
right?
attorneys, call me. Tommy Lexus, if you know anybody out there, any attorneys out there in Brooklyn, little shysters, call me. I'm in. So yeah, so getting back to Bronny James, guys, is Bronny James any good? I haven't seen him play yet.
So
He's
he
good now.
just played in the McDonald's All-American game last night. He scored 15 points, 5 out of 8 from 3. He's amazing on defense, and his shot just keeps getting better and better. So he's improved every year as well. So
See, what I don't like about the whole situation with Bronny, and Dad, let him be himself. Like, remember last year, LeBron was like, my last season in the NBA, I want to play with my son. I think it'll be special. I really want it to happen. So what he's doing there, he's basically telling the NBA, if you sign me to a contract, that same year my son can come out. Not only you got to sign me to a contract, that means you got to draft my son in the first round. I mean,
yeah, Knicks,
who
baby.
knows any first round talent yet? But you're putting pressure on your son to begin with, and you're trying to call the shots for him. Let him make his own way, bro.
right, and the key thing was he picked up his player option for the Lakers next year, knowing that his son can't come to the NBA next year. So he picked that up, and he'll be a free agent after once Bronny's available to come. So it'll be one more year to wait, and then he said he'll go to any team that drafts his son. So we'll see.
Come on, that's hogwash, man. I never called Jordan's sons. I believe one of which did play college basketball. I'm not sure if they both did. I know one did.
I remember one of them did play at UCF. I think the other one might have played at Illinois as well, but
Yeah, but there was no pressure, right? There was no, you know.
There's no media. That's the thing.
yeah,
True. Yeah, true. Now everybody has their cameras out, and
Yeah, and that's the difference between LeBron and Jordan. I mean, LeBron is at every game, putting the spotlight on his son. Michael Jordan doesn't come out of, this. He doesn't come out of seclusion. He doesn't really put himself in that public spotlight like LeBron does.
very true. Good point. Great point.
Yeah, I was thinking about that today, where I feel like now, as LeBron kind of looks at the other side of the mountain, where yes, his passion's still there, obviously, but I think at this point, just playing with his son is like his top priority. He's become a little bit less of a hassle when it comes to putting a team around him. I think a couple of years ago, if you put, Austin Reeves and Mo Bamba around him, you would have heard a little bit more from LeBron. But I think right now, just his only priority is to play with his son. And that's, after 20 years, that's an achievement that really anyone else can say. But it's funny how I feel like that's kind of LeBron's main priority now, besides a championship, even before a championship, just considering how poor these Lakers teams have been the last couple of years as Bronny Jr. has made his way to this sign. But to answer your question, at least in my eyes, he definitely has had a better year this year. I think he was kind of a top 30 pick before, and then this upcoming year, especially with the McDonald's game he had yesterday, that definitely boosted his draft stock to now top 15, maybe even 10. I think that the best route for him is to go to the college route. Don't do the G League route. Don't do the overseas route or a couple of these programs that they have. And I believe it's the 3 programs. It's Ohio State. I want to say USC, and then another team in there where are the teams that he's likely to go to, Bronny James. But he's good, not great, but it's his size. That's the thing. I mean, he's 6'2" as a guard. He doesn't have his father's, height and just, stature.
right. And his other son's a sophomore right now, and he's actually taller than Bronny James. So we'll see how he develops as well.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's amazing what a name can do, but they're certainly they've I don't want to say earned all of it, but he didn't look like a scrub last night. That's for sure. I mean, he had I think it was 5 3-pointers last night. He showed that he can play with the big boys, and he's not just LeBron James, and his name got him up there. He played well last night, and that's what you do in those big moments when you're in the recruiting process. Go out and do it. So I know, Bobby, you have a vendetta against LeBron, but
you know what? I
looks okay.
I actually liked LeBron coming out of high school, and I'll tell you why. I love the way he was obviously the star, right? He was the big guy, big man on campus, superstar in the making, right? And I love the way he brought all his friends into his business, right? He wasn't forgetting his friends or his teammates, and in superstardom. So they all built a business around LeBron James, including his friends. I love that. I love that. Well, what really lost me on LeBron, besides obviously what happened with this video, was that whole I'm taking my talents to Miami debacle too. And again, another show, another debate, because I think we can go do a whole show on this.
I was gonna say,
whole Jordan
versus LeBron. What are we doing here? The MLB show. We're talking about Bronny James, who's not coming.
I know.
Out.
Well, it's all point, right? Not all point sports.
Oh, yeah.
All right, so Doc, I have a question for you. Getting back to the MLB talk, what are the odds for the Giants for World Series? Because if I'm not mistaken, then again, I follow sports pretty closely, but mostly from a New York City standpoint, or teams I follow like Marlins or Pittsburgh or whatnot. I don't believe the Giants made any big splashes this year. They tried. They tried to get every slugger out there, Aaron Judge, Correa, you name it. But I mean, what are their odds this year? Because I don't think they made that much of an impact on their roster.
No, they're way down there, Bobby. They're what you call a hedge bet, because they don't even make top 10 in any of the categories, not even top 15. So it's going to be tough to even. I wouldn't bet the house on it.
Yeah, and they have a
Or
young
that new car, Bobby.
What's that?
Or that new car.
No.
That was nice too, Bobby.
Thank you. I got a great deal. I'll tell you the secret later. I'm
like
very
everyone
happy though.
does. Everyone got a great deal, as they say.
Got to
Is that
be
what
Tommy
you said?
Lexus.
He gave you a great deal.
Oh, by the way, if you're listening, I've noticed now I posted the show on one or two of the Villaroma pages. So if you're listening now live on the Villaroma pages or watching on Villaroma TV, and you want to make a comment, I believe you can do so. Especially if you're watching us on Facebook or whatnot, you can make a comment and we'll bring it up and we'll talk to you about it. So if you're watching this after the live replay and we come on next week, just remember we encourage your comments so we can bring you up on board as part of the show, and we are going to get to the point where we're going to start having some of our guests at Villaroma as part of the show.
Including Tommy Lexus.
I've been waiting for so-called Chris Monty to come on. I feel like every episode we say that he's going to be on the next episode, but I'm looking forward to
They
it.
can't get on the air, and I'm supposed to help him with that. And it doesn't happen. I would love to have. I think we should plan next few weeks before the NFL draft in the end of April. We need a little Anthony Antico Giant talk with us.
Giant talk for the NFL. I mean, Doc, if you want a hardcore Mets fan, get Tommy Walker on the phone. He'll give you an impassioned speech about the Mets and
Tommy Walker. He's a great choice. Also, Christopher Saida.
Yeah,
Another big Met fan. Maybe a Stephanie Flaum.
Mets and Ducks. Christopher.
And I know a huge Mets fan that lives in the Bronx as well. So anytime we need to talk about the Mets, he's in Yankee territory, but
He's out of place there.
They're out there, yeah.
Yeah.
And hey, speaking of Yankees, we're gonna transition over to those boys in pinstripes, and it's for the Yankees. Of course, it's always World Series or bust, but just trying to turn this year into a different result than last year. We're all going to be very confident that it's going to be at least an ALDS or a CS result. But I mean, it's daunting Yankee fans that for the 5 of the last 7 years we have the Astros in front of us, but nonetheless, it is World Series or bust. And we got our captain back, Aaron Judge, and that was kind of the big highlight of the offseason, surrounded by a couple of smaller moves. So I guess kind of going around for the Yankees, I kind of want to hear who's going to be the, not the MVP, but the key for the Yankees this year in them making a World Series push, them finally getting over that hump. They got a lot of good pieces, a lot of returning pieces, but they also kind of tweaked and added some new people. So as we look into the new, on the eve of the 2023 season for those Bronx Bombers, who's going to be the MVP for the Yankee season if they want to be wearing a ring in 162 games plus the playoffs?
Doc, take us off.
You got to go to Judge, Aaron Judge. Aaron Judge is the key to this season for the New York Yankees. Everything is built around him. They can't pitch around him. So they're going to have to pitch to Aaron Judge. Forget the 180, 200 walks. They're going to have to pitch to Judge as long as they stay healthy. He is the key. If he goes down, then it starts to fall apart and they can pitch very, very tough. But the pitchers are going to have a tough time against this Yankee lineup. One big bat right after another. What do you think, John? You're a Brave fan, but I know you know the New York Yankees. We went to a game. Tell them the game we went to. Interleague play. First year of interleague play.
Here ever at interleague play. First time at Yankee Stadium. It was Doc Gooden versus Greg Maddux.
Wow.
I think I was 12 years old. It was just amazing game. Went to extra innings, and Jermaine Dye for the Atlanta Braves hit a home run. and we ended up winning. I went crazy. Everybody started booing because I'm a huge Ray. But yes, it was definitely a great game, and I'll never forget that.
So, what do you think about the Yankees this year?
Yeah, Yankees just they're. I mean, every year their lineup is just completely insane. Anybody they want, they try to go out and get. The biggest thing would be with starting pitching, and they did add to that. But they have two of them who are hurt right now, so that could be a key. And then with the new schedule this year as well, you play everybody across Major League Baseball, so that should be interesting as well. So you can't beat up on the sorry teams over and over again. Now it's spread out where you have to play everybody. So
And hey, this is a tough division. Even the Red Sox, they had a couple of brutal wins against us last year. The Rays are always a thorn in our side, even though it seems like we really kind of got over that hump last year against them. It seems like they weren't really as an annoyance as they usually have been. But I mean, teams like the Blue Jays and the Orioles, they're young and man, they're on the uptick. And I'm all right with getting out of the AL East schedule. I do like that we have kind of a different schedule, especially they open up the year, the Giants and the Phillies. I believe we even play the Dodgers this year, which should be a fun matchup. So I do like some of the changes. I think that's one of them for getting out of the East. Bobby Blackjack, your Yankees MVP for this year, if they're going to make a run at it.
I think if we're going to make a run to the World Series, I believe it's newly acquired pitcher Carlos Rodon. I think if he gets healthy, and he should be, he's a few weeks away. I think he's the key to getting us over the top. Um, he's a great pitcher, and unfortunately, he's not going to make up for the disaster as Frankie Montas and the prospects we gave up for him. As a matter of fact, here's what's going to really be an annoyance for Yankee fans this year. Ken Waldichuk was one of the top pitchers that we traded Frankie Montas for, is on the map to be AL Rookie of the Year this year.
wow.
That's a guy who was an art,
And even the pitch that they gave up for Scott Efros for the Cubs, the pitcher's name is escaping me right now, but he is another. I don't want to say Cy Young contender, but he had a filthy spring. He had some very good starts for them for the Cubs. So even what we gave up for a pitcher who's not even going to be pitching this year, man, what a brutal trade deadline it was last year between not getting Lopez, between Montas, Efros who's hurt, Benintendi who's playing in the black pinstripes. It was not Brian Cashman's finest. So what do we do? We reward him with a new fat 5-year deal. But I'm glad that no one said Volpe because I feel like it's a little too young to put it on him, even though Yankee fans, I mean, it seems like with Volpe, the only thing that he can do is, go down. I feel like he's on top of the world right now. And unless, he's hitting a home run every at bat, he's really got a lot on his shoulders. But it looks like the kid can take it. But for me, I would agree, Bobby, that, you do need a solid 1-2 punch. Carlos Rodon and Garrett Cole. I do think it's, you got to be smart in thinking that Nestor Cortez takes a little bit of a half step back, considering that he was a Cy Young contender last year. But, I mean, that's what you need. You need a 1-2 punch if you really want to, be in contention. Look at the Astros. They had Verlander and Javier last year. Whether you're the Phillies with Nola and Wheeler, you're the Mets with DeGrom and Scherzer, the Braves, Strider and Wright.
Max
Kyle Wright and Max Fried. Yeah, I mean they got a bunch of pitching, so you need a 1-2 combo there for sure if you want to be in it. But for me, you just gotta. I'm thinking Giancarlo Stanton just because last year was an awful year. He's got to stay healthy because if he doesn't stay healthy, you have Bader and Judge. Who's going to be playing left field? Is it Cabrera? You definitely don't want Hicks in there. So if Giancarlo can stay healthy, play the outfield rather, kind of keep those treacherous bench guys like IKF and Hicks, keep them there because when Stanton's hot, man, it's fun to watch, and the bats can't go silent in September and October like they did. So he's definitely a big part of that. So for me, it's going to be Giancarlo Stanton, and also, for the bullpen too. They got to have a solid bullpen like they did last year. Everyone's got to stay healthy, and I think that's one of the pluses for them.
I think Michael King hasn't given a run yet this spring, right? Unless he gave up one recently, because up to last week he's been lights out coming back from that broken wrist he had last year.
Mm-hmm.
I think we have the best bullpen in the league.
Oh yeah.
I mean, depending on Clay Holmes really being the first half Clay Holmes, not the second half Clay Holmes. And you mentioned IKF, Steve. I think IKF could be very useful in that utility role, and having him and Cabrera, Oswaldo Cabrera, on this team. You know, you have two guys who could be very interchangeable all over the field, whether it be for offense or defense. I think that could be a key for us this year.
And that's definitely.
I don't know anything about this guy we signed today.
Especially for the Yankees that have, kind of a log jam where is it going to be Donaldson playing third? Is it going to be LeMahieu? Does Glaber get a day off? It's back to the first half of last year where they have 5 infielders who need 4 positions, and the more you can get Stanton there and left, you can DH a Donaldson or a LeMahieu. But it certainly doesn't hurt to have a guy like Cabrera who can really play any position, because that just leaves more arms. And Lord knows for the MLB that everyone wants as many arms as possible, and just keep the same 9 out there and just rotate all these different pitchers in and out. But it's certainly going to be an interesting year. For the Yankees, the Astros staring them in the face, but they lost Verlander, which is always tough, losing your number one. But of course, they did sign former AL MVP Jose Abreu. I'm looking at everyone here. What are we thinking? Are the Yankees going to get out on top in the AL East? Are we thinking that a team like the Blue Jays, maybe even the Rays, could make a bounce back? Are we sure that they're winning the AL East and coming out on top? I'm sure Doc Holliday has the odds there for all these different AL East teams.
Well, the Astros favored by a full 100 points over the Yankees. And when it comes down to the American League, that's big. That's huge. And with them playing this balanced schedule, again, they're playing teams like the Dodgers, who are predicted to get the most wins this year of all teams. And they're not predicted higher in the World Series, but they're predicted most wins. Dodgers, then the Astros, 50 points higher, then the Yankees, then the Braves, Mets, Padres. So if you have to play like the Yankees, a team like the Dodgers, then the Astros, then the Phillies, oh my, you're facing many, many more tough teams than you did the year before. So when it comes down to most wins, that might not be a real high number this year for any team.
Good point. So, guys, what are your thoughts on Anthony Volpe? I'm gonna go out. I'm gonna go out on a limb here on opening day eve, and I'm gonna predict a home run tomorrow by Anthony Volpe. I think he's gonna be so charged up. I'm not predicting a fast start from him overall, but I just think tomorrow, if he has any bit of that Jeterism in him, he'll hit a home run tomorrow in front of that home crowd on opening day.
He qualifies as a rookie, Bobby?
Yeah.
I predict rookie of the year, Volpe.
Well, getting back there real quick, I'm looking at CBS.com as a reference, and their 5-person panel here on predictions. One of them do have Volpe as rookie of the year. Of course, I think everybody's thinking of this Gunnar Henderson from the Orioles to be the runaway rookie of the year. But hey, anything could happen, right?
Anything could happen.
And like I said,
cycle tomorrow, Volpe.
Cycle.
Yeah.
So, Steve, I don't know if you heard this before. He actually called up Brett Gardner and asked him to use number 11.
We're number 11. I would have liked the 77, but I guess he knows that the lower Yankee numbers are usually the ones that have had the most success. So I think he's trying to get down there. I don't even think that there's a single digit left.
And that's a lot. 11's a lot. Yeah, I think 11's the youngest, lowest one left.
Mm-hmm. And man,
I think he did the right move because, hey, people love Brett Gardner. I do. I don't know if Steve doesn't have. I always love Brett Gardner, and It's a shame he didn't get one last hurrah with us.
Yeah, he didn't get a farewell tour, which was certainly a shame considering that, he was that everyday player, especially during those rough years in, 2013, 14. He was kind of a rock there with the Baby Bombers years. Um, you know, those young teams, they really needed someone to rely on, and Brett Gardner was really kind of that veteran in the clubhouse where they didn't have a lot. After, Jeter left, CC left, just he was a fan favorite for sure. He definitely knew how to play the crowd, and he was a true Yankee, and certainly one of the more entertaining ones. But Volpe with number 11, it's certainly interesting. And, like I said, with Yankee fans, maybe we can get a little bit over our heads with Volpe. So we have to be, aware that he's probably going to have, very bad parts in the summer. He's going to have some hiccups, some errors. But, I mean, it's good to have a new face in that lineup because they really did bring a lot of guys back with Judge, with Rizzo. They re signed all this kind of same players in that lineup to keep it. And I think that's kind of, not a sin in baseball, but I think you always got to keep things moving, keep a lineup kind of different. You never want the same guys out there just because with analytics and, you don't want the book going out on them. So having a fresh new face in that lineup, especially to get that crowd going, certainly doesn't hurt for the Yankees. And addition by subtraction, meaning no IKF for 158 games.
You know that the Yankee fans, they don't wait too long, so he's got to produce right away. I just can be only reminded of guys like Kenny Rogers and Chuck Knobloch. Chuck Knobloch batted over 340 points average with the Twins, came over to the Yankees, couldn't throw the ball from second base to first base. The crowd has its way of taking you right out, and then you're gone, and then you become a superstar somewhere else. It happens over and over again. Even the Mets, Nolan Ryan, they let go Nolan Ryan. Um, so many great ball players have emerged from New York because they couldn't take the crowd. So it's going to be very interesting. I agree with you, Stephen J. It's going to be fun to watch. It's exciting baseball because he's lighting it up in the spring. That Volpe, he just has unbelievable numbers in the spring. So can that go right over into the Major League season? We'll find out tomorrow versus Giants.
Yeah, so it
At
looks
home.
like Bobby Blackjack is looking at a Tyler Austin, Aaron Judge introduction, something like that, where he hits a home run first at bat, where they went back to back. I don't know if you remember that with the Baby Bombers. That was 2014 or 15, something like that.
Yeah, I'm not sure if
Does
it'd
he
be the first
point, Bobby?
I see one. I see one.
Does he point towards the outfield fence before he gets up?
I don't know about that. One thing you
They
mentioned,
said that really
I
happened.
agree with. You mentioned about people, players coming here to New York and failing, and of course that happens quite often. But I believe though, when you're a homegrown talent, I think the fan base is a little more forgiving for you, towards you. Right? Ed Whitson comes to mind. Oh my God, he was a big signing back in the early '80s there, and he was awful.
Yeah, there's something special about those homegrown guys, wherever it is. I think that's what makes it special. Whether you get someone in free agency or by trade, kind of takes a little bit of luster off there. But just the fact that you have someone who's been number one, the anticipation has been there. You didn't know if you were going to see him on opening day, but just the homegrown guys definitely have a special place in Yankee fans' hearts. Just, I mean, look at our captain now, Aaron Judge, which is crazy to say that we have a captain again with
you mentioned Brett Gardner. I always thought Brett Gardner was a de facto captain,
he was
unofficial.
in the clubhouse. Oh yeah,
I wish he was. There was a few seasons there. I wish he was named captain. Because hey, Willie Randolph was a captain. Wasn't long, but he was one, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
But Willie had his ups and downs, especially with the Mets when they were up. Everyone thought another championship for the Mets, and then all of a sudden, what happened?
Mm-hmm.
That's somebody who kind of. I think it's way too late now, but it kind of baffles me why he never got a second chance anywhere else. Willie Randolph.
Who's going up against John's Braves all the time? That's why.
Yeah.
I know Steve's been holding this back now. I think we did a pretty good job with our Yankee preview this year. I think we all think it's going to be a playoff year again. I personally think, it's going to be, depending on how fast or slow they start with all these injuries, I think their main competition in the AL East is coming from Toronto, who I believe they also signed Jameson Taillon, who we could use right now, right?
Oh yeah. They he was there was the Cubs that signed Tyone, but you're thinking of
the Cubs.
Chris Bassett, who went to
There was somebody. Yeah, you're right.
Yeah,
I'm
Bassett's
sorry,
still a very good pitcher, and that's what they needed. They are a team that has a very impressive lineup and a very ugly bullpen. But last year, Yunsi Kikuchi and Jose Barrios, I believe, both were additions. The year prior, they had awful seasons, but Alex Manoah had a fantastic year. He's kind of a Cy Young favorite for the Blue Jays, along with Kevin Gausman, a former Giant, with Bassett there. So they're kind of building a formidable starting rotation, and no one's talked about Hoijin Rio, who's probably going to be back a little bit later in the year. So I mean, those four guys, those are four very quality playoff starters, especially if they can get Barrios back on track, considering they gave him a fat contract. So I think that the Blue Jays are definitely the team to watch. I know that the Braves, or the Rays rather, they're always a thorn on our side, but just very, very, any lack of talent there for the Rays. And I think the Orioles are just 1 year behind. I think next year's the year where the Orioles build up a pitching staff, get those young guys one more year under their belt. So I'm with Bobby, where I'm a little nervous about these Blue Jays. Even as we're looking at the Astros, the Blue Jays, kind of looking in our own backyard, are a dangerous team.
All right, let's try to do a full blown Mets preview next week. We'll try to get somebody on from our legion of guests who are Mets fans to come on. I think it'll be a little unfair for us to do the Mets since we're not really Met fans.
Mm-hmm.
Hopefully we have maybe it would be John being a Braves fan there, and of course we're all waiting for Stephen Jay's Mets rant in a few moments.
Oh yes, I mean, I wish I could say for the Mets, just start off hot early, because you know what, the Phillies, they don't have Bryce Harper until next year, or after the All-Star break, and they don't have Rhys Hoskins until next year. The Braves obviously are a team that they gotta get out of the gate early, but that's exactly what they did last year, right? They started out hot, they stayed up on top, and then they dropped it at the end. So just consistency for the Mets. A lot of people's happy about that 1-2 punch with Verlander and Scherzer, but a 40-year-old, a 38 or 39-year-old in Scherzer, who had some injury concerns, and that back end of the rotation. I mean, you have Cody Senga, who hasn't thrown one MLB pitch. Is he going to end up being a Yunsi Kikuchi from the Blue Jays, where they said, "Oh man, what are we thinking here? Is he going to be one of the better international signings?" Quintana's already hurt for the Mets. Who's their number 5 guy? Really, they lost a lot of quality arms in Walker and Bassett. And the Mets, and considering that they lost Diaz too, it's all going to be about the arms. Their offense was formidable last year, but they got a lot of talented teams that can go tit for tat with them on the offensive side, like the Padres, the Dodgers, the Braves, the Phillies. They have a solid 1-2 punch, but they're going to need 30, 32 starts from both Verlander and Scherzer to really be there up at the top. So that's just my opinion. Doc, we gave the stats, right, for the Mets on what it was to win, right?
Yes.
The odds.
So the Astros at 400 and the Mets at 800. Dodgers 800, Braves 850, Padres 1,000.
Which is a good number, but Alonso in a possible contract year. It's going to be Alonso, Lindor. They got a great heart of the lineup, and they have a lot of rotational guys where Canna, who can play every outfield position. You have Escobar. I'm sure they'd love to see some Brett Beatty in there. So the Mets, I don't know if anyone saw that scoreboard that they have in their center field now, which is so it's not very pleasing to the eye. Like the Dallas Cowboys can do that because it's right up there in the center, but the Mets scoreboard, if anyone has the time to look it up, I mean, it is just like they have the podium behind the little the video board, and then there's just a big TV that juts out right there at Citi Field. It's kind of ugly to the eye, but besides the fact there, Um, that's as far as I'll go with the Mets. I think you know it's not about the names on the back that they acquired; it's those names on the front. So I think John, you got. I'm going with the Braves to win the division, but I think the Mets will be there and probably around the 2 or the 3 spot in the wild card.
I'm definitely gonna take my Braves, but to the Mets, losing Diaz is a huge, huge blow. He's the best closer in baseball, and he is just lights out when he comes. He is tough. So losing him, that's gonna hurt them a lot.
Mm-hmm.
So they're still the favorite to win in the National League. So Mets 800, Dodgers 800, Braves 850, and Padres 1,000.
I think
So
that Padres number is generous. I don't think the
Yeah,
Dodgers are going to be as good considering kind of what Bobby and I were talking about last year. I think that this is kind of the Dodgers will never throw in the towel, but I think it's kind of a layover year because they're making a run at Otani next year. So even my World Series pick for this year is going to be the Padres, just because they went all in this offseason, and usually that first year, a la the 2009 Yankees, when you have all those contracts and everyone's kind of eager to get going with Xander Bogaerts coming over and they re-signed Darvish. I think that team in the Padres, I think plus 1,000, that could be a pretty good bet this year. I don't know if
It's
anyone else has any World Series favorites or World Series matchups that they're thinking about this early, but hey, it's a preview show, so we can make some predictions.
hmm
I say if Volpe stays healthy and Aaron Judge, you could look for a Subway Series, Yankees Mets, either Yankees Braves or Yankees Mets is what I'm taking this year.
And look at last year. I mean, they the infusion of Jeremy Pena for the Astros. I mean, a young bat just kind of excites the team. Obviously, losing Correa hurt, but it's amazing what just kind of a new young guy, homegrown talent can kind of do to a lineup and just kind of change it because with analytics, right, add some different pieces in there. So the Yankees. Maybe looking at last year's Astros, kind of like a Jeremy Pena with Anthony Volpe. They'll take that any day.
I think Volpe eventually becomes our second baseman with Peraza being the shortstop. And if you know what, if IKF now love him or hate him, I know Steve hates him. If IKF wasn't here, Peraza is still on his team right now.
Who had an awful spring. He really had a chance to kind of give the Yankees an excuse for, having Volpe play the shortstop or having Peraza play the shortstop and having Volpe go down the AAA and get that extra year of eligibility, a lot of the service time manipulation. But just, I think he batted like 188 and Peraza had a brutal spring. So really, the Yankees had no other choice but to bring up Volpe because they could not have IKF at shortstop. That is for sure. And, they added one thing that we can look at, they did add Frank. What was his name? Frankie Cordero, I think it was. And they have too
What,
many players on the team.
Yankees,
The Yankees. They signed.
Frenchie
Yeah,
or something. Is a pretty weird first name.
yeah, I think it was Frankie Cordero, I believe. So the Yankees do have a surplus of players on that opening day roster. So, could a trade be coming? Who knows?
Yeah,
Maybe.
I think. Yeah, you're right. I think Esteban Florial, one of those kids that's been the next big thing, but never quite made it.
Mhm.
He's out of options, so I think he's the guy with a package. Hey, maybe it's him and Torres, Glaber, going to somebody for another pitcher or something. I think our offense is pretty much set. I mean, I mean,
It's the little moves that they could make. But that was an interesting move that they made kind of the eve of opening day, signing an outfielder to a regular season contract. But nevertheless, we got Anthony Volpe, and he's going to be the co-star with Aaron Judge this year. And, following up a 62-year home run season is going to be tough. I don't know if anyone's expecting regression, but that could be a storyline where, he was a consistent player last year, but hopefully no one's expecting 62 home runs, and maybe Stanton can pick up some of the slack and Volpe, and it'll be a fun year for the Yankees.
guys, before we wrap up the our MLB preview show part one, again, we still have another role. I want a Met guy on. I want a Raz Met guy. I want a Raz a funny Met guy like Chris Monty. Anyway,
Yeah.
Mets will
um,
always. and they got a tough division.
And did you tell Stephen J what Tommy Lexus would be talking on? Tailgating at the stadium before you go to the game, and the best tailgate foods.
Confirmed. That's.
Yeah, I talked to him about it. He's gonna
Uh,
bring some Royal Crown sandwiches, some L&B, some
We'll
Peter's Meat Market.
we'll have to do an in-person show for that because if I get my hands on that, it's wraps after that. That's got to be something that we'll have to come together for. Bring a plate.
Hey, Bobby, we'll set up the camera by the grill.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that works.
Man, it's a beautiful thing, the MLB season. Obviously, it's so abrupt when it ends because, you have nearly 200 games played if, your team makes it to the playoffs. And, just going almost 3/4 of the year. It's so abrupt when the season ends. But the toughest thing about the MLB offseason is just that last month because nothing happens in February. We had March Madness just at the end. But, once football is over, all you have is, basketball, baseball. Baseball is like our babysitter. It's on every night. It's in the background. You fall asleep to it. You're always checking the scores nightly. It's a different topic every day. Whether it's a bad bullpen move, whether it's your star of the game. Obviously, the NFL is the biggest sport right now. You have a lot of NBA fans, but there's just the beauty of the MLB where it's on just every night. You got some new rule changes there that'll definitely be a storyline throughout the year, and we'll touch up on that for sure. But a beautiful thing, and it's America's pastime for a reason. I don't think anything's going away with that soon. And if you're a Yankee fan, you're excited. If you're like my roommate who's a Red Sox fan, you're about to go into hiding for 162 days. And if you're a Met fan, you are in for a lot of highs and a lot of lows. But we all know how the season will end there. But that's nevertheless. And man, what a beautiful thing for baseball, right? As much.
So Steve, real quick, before I get,
I'm just sick.
so Steve, real quick, what are your thoughts of the Mets' $375 million payroll?
I don't think there's such thing as buying a championship team because in the end, the Yankees they won a lot of championships based off of the core four. Even though a lot of people get on them for buying championships, it's all about how you draft, the moves, what kind of manager you have. So, they have a lot of good players, nevertheless. But like I said, it's about that name on the front, not the name on the back. No matter how many you can get, and the Mets will always Met. And it's fun to have a team that we can look up and laugh at because they certainly have had a couple things that you can just shake your head at and go, man. Already before the beginning of the year, just all these freak injuries. Obviously, it's an awful thing to watch, but as they always say, it's the same old Mets. And whether it's must end the season, as the METS acronym goes, but I like to have a little fun with the Mets. But they're certainly gonna have a good year. But man, they got just getting over that hump for them. As Yankee fans, we know that we're gonna we're going to meet the Astros in the ALCS, and that can go either way. But for the Mets, they were thinking World Series last year, and they just couldn't even get out of the wild card. And just all these endings to them, just when you think that you couldn't get a different or embarrassing storyline, that's what you get with the Mets, and it'll be. But we love having some competition here.
So Doc, next time we have a managers meeting up at the Villa Roma, we want to suggest some extra security on those 2 weekends where the Mets and Yankees play each other.
There we go.
It can get ugly up there, a lot of chest thumping.
We'll put it on the big screen at Villa Roma, Yankees, Mets.
A lot of chest thumping going to be happening this summer.
What do you think? More Mets fans or Yankee fans here at Villa Roma, Bobby?
I think it's Mets because I think Yankee fans are now. Steve, correct me if I'm wrong. Yankee fans are generally Bronx, Westchester, Jersey, upstate New York.
Yeah, and some Long Island, but more Long Island
and
for the Mets.
Mets are Queens,
County,
Long Island, Staten Island, and that's most of our guests, right?
Oh yeah, where I'm at, everyone's dad is a Met fan. I feel like my part, Suffolk County, that's kind of Met territory. There are a lot of Met fans there. I would agree with that, Bobby. But there's the. We know that it's an Italian resort, so I don't know. Maybe the Yankee fans kind of that could add to it. Who knows? But Yeah, man, the Subway Series. We got to get a Villaroma softball game going. That was my dream throughout the winter. A Villaroma softball game. Matt Holliday was always telling me about it. If we can get Bobby Blackjack on the tee, maybe Doc throwing his curveball up against Bobby
Oh, yeah.
Blackjack. I mean, we'll get the phones out for that. That's gonna be something that everyone's got to watch.
Hey, I used
What
to
about-
hit him over the hill in the old softball field, which is now I think building 12. I don't know. What are those buildings right above the hill?
Oh, the
above
field's
pool?
in great shape, ready for a game. I think Matt Holliday is a Met fan, isn't he?
Ooh, I think Matt Holliday just picks favorite teams, whatever market he jumps to. Don't tell him I told you that, but I think now he's just Cowboys.
Texas.
You know,
Texas Rangers.
yeah, the Rangers who have DeGrom, and I would say Matt Holliday. He's definitely a Jet fan. We know that. Basketball, he's a Knick guy, but I think he'd take a little bit more towards the Yankees. But I don't. He's not a baseball guy, really. He'll wear a jersey, but that's about it. So, I guess to kind of wrap it up here, I guess World Series matchups, right? I think Bobby mentioned his. I said, I like the Padres winning it all this year. I don't know, Doc or John, if you guys mentioned it, but I didn't hear it. But I guess to kind of wrap it up, World Series predictions. What are we thinking here?
I'm gonna go with the Atlanta Braves versus the Houston Astros in a rematch.
All right. What says you, Doc?
And I go New York Yankees
I got
versus either the Braves or Mets.
That's right, the Subway Series pick. And man, what a great time. I know tomorrow's not going to be the best of days. Cold, windy day for the Yankees in the Bronx, but baseball's back, and most importantly, number 99 is back, and all of our teams here. It's a very upbeat show when you have Braves fans and Yankee fans here, and it's we're all talking about, we're going to win the division, we're going to go to the World Series. Thankfully, we don't have any like Red Sox or Met fans or Washington National fans. So it's good that we have winners here for this year. It's going to be a bright year for all of the stars here on channel 114, our Stick to Sports. Doc, I don't know if you saw, but we got a little bit of a change in the background here because I was going from the basement to just kind of my messy room here. I did a little bit of cleaning up. We got the Yankees behind, we got the sign here. Had
Very
to
nice.
match the aesthetic, especially since Bobby Blackjack is in. He looks like he's at like a Buffalo Wild Wings with that setup, Bobby Black.
Yeah.
Yeah, so that'll do it right here.
I have a second location.
There we go.
My
Minutes of
prediction.
baseball talk. Gotta love it.
Who you got, Bobby?
My internet's going crazy here. I don't know what's happening today. So let's try to wrap this up. As my internet's going nuts here. Also next week we'll again tomorrow will be a lot of predictions coming out tonight, tomorrow on all the major sports websites. So we'll do a kind of a Mets preview, and we'll go over some of the predictions on the major awards too. So we'll say that for part 2 next week. And of course, we'll talk about the Final Four this weekend. And after this weekend, we'll have the part 2 of the MLB, and then we're pretty much going to start getting into hockey and basketball, I guess, right?
If you're a sports fan, you gotta love these next 10 days because you have opening day, you have the Final Four, obviously basketball's in the swing of things, and also a week from tomorrow. And this is one of the best weekends really in sports. In September you have all 4 sports, and there's sports equinox, but there's just something about the Masters, and we got a whole lot of it. We'll have a champion crowned by this time next week, and maybe the Mets will even be out of it. Who knows? But it's got a lot of content for next week's show, and we thank you guys all for joining. Doc Holliday, John, Bobby Blackjack, of course, for setting it all up. Everyone's all scattered in different locations, so everyone, thanks for joining tonight. Thanks to all the hosts. They did an amazing job. And, of course, Channel 114, 9 o'clock every Wednesday. Stick to sports. And, part 2 next week of baseball. We got the Masters. We got NCAA. And thank you all for watching. And have a good night. And thank you to all the co-hosts for joining. And, man, you guys were This was an awesome talk as always. We're getting the hang of this, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Damn, internet doesn't flare up all the time. We're good.
Yeah, Bobby's got his internet plugged into a baked potato.
Take care, guys.
All right. Have a good night.
All right, have
Love
a
you,
great
John.
night.
All right, love you too.